Don't touch that. Alien Emperor screamed, but the human mechanic's hand already awakened the Titan. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. The Imperial flagship Dominion hung in the cold darkness of space, its hull glistening with bioluminescent patterns that rippled across its surface like waves. Within its cavernous central chamber, Emperor Zoltan of the Centauri Empire paced nervously, his forearms gesticulating wildly as he addressed the small human woman who stood before him with a toolbox clutched in her calloused hands. "I still don't understand why we need a human mechanic," Emperor Zoltan muttered, his translucent skin flushing purple with frustration. The Emperor towered over Riley Cooper, his elongated head adorned with sensory filaments that twitched with each anxious movement. "Our engineers are the finest in the 17 systems." Riley brushed a strand of auburn hair from her face and adjusted her standard-issue jumpsuit. At 5'4", she barely reached the Emperor's midsection, but her posture remained straight and confident. "With all due respect, Your Majesty, your engineers have been trying to fix your ship's propulsion system for 3 weeks. The Galactic Union sent me because humans have a particular talent for fixing things that no one else can figure out." Emperor Zoltan made a dismissive gesture with his lower set of arms. "So I've been told. The Galactic Union insists that humans possess some innate mechanical intuition that other species lack." His upper right hand brushed against the ceremonial medallion that hung from his neck, a nervous habit he developed over his 2 centuries of rule. "But the Dominion is not just any vessel. It houses technologies beyond your comprehension." Riley nodded politely, though her patience was wearing thin. She'd been standing in this chamber for over an hour while the Emperor voiced his reservations. Meanwhile, the massive Imperial fleet was effectively stranded in neutral space, unable to move without the flagship's guidance systems. "I understand your concerns," she said, "but I've been fixing ships for 15 years, including Centauri vessels. I've studied your propulsion technology. I'm certified for Level 9 Xenotech repairs." She hefted her toolbox. "Just let me take a look." A tall, slender Centauri dressed in the silver uniform of the Imperial Guard stepped forward. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice a melodic hum, "we've exhausted all other options. The diplomatic summit on Proxima begins in 2 days. If we cannot repair the flagship, it will be seen as a sign of weakness." The Emperor's filaments drooped in resignation. "Very well, Commander Vex. Take the human to the engine room. But watch her carefully." Commander Vex bowed and gestured for Riley to follow him. As they left the Imperial chamber and entered the winding corridors of the Dominion, Riley took the opportunity to study her surroundings. The ship was a marvel of bioengineering and quantum technology, its walls seemingly alive with pulsing energy conduits and neural interfaces. "I've never been inside the flagship before," Riley remarked, trying to break the ice with the stoic commander. "Few non-Centauri have," Vex replied curtly. "The Dominion is the pride of our empire, constructed by our greatest minds over a period of 50 years. And now it won't start," Riley said with a small smile. Commander Vex didn't appreciate the humor. "The propulsion system is not merely not starting, human. It's experiencing cascading quantum fluctuations that our engineers cannot stabilize. The Dominion is more than a ship. It's a symbol of our technological superiority." Riley resisted the urge to roll her eyes. In her experience, every species thought their technology was superior, yet they all eventually needed a human to fix something. After navigating through a maze of corridors and passing numerous security checkpoints, they finally arrived at the engine room, a vast, cathedral-like space dominated by a pulsating crystal core suspended in an anti-gravity field. Around it, dozens of Centauri engineers worked frantically at control panels, their faces illuminated by the soft blue glow of holographic displays. Chief Engineer Thalo approached them, her skin a pale blue that indicated stress in Centauri physiology. "Commander, is this the human specialist?" she asked, her voice tinged with desperation. "Yes," Vex replied. "Riley Cooper of Earth, sent by the Galactic Union." Thala's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of skepticism. We've tried everything in the standard protocols. The quantum matrix is destabilizing, and we cannot determine why. Riley set down her toolbox and approached the nearest control panel. "May I?" she asked, gesturing to the holographic interface. Thala hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. Riley's fingers danced across the alien controls with surprising familiarity. The Centauri engineers watched in silence as she pulled up diagnostic readings and system schematics. "Your quantum harmonizers are out of phase," Riley observed after several minutes of study. "But that's just a symptom, not the cause. Have you checked the temporal alignment in the secondary containment field?" "Of course we have," Thala said defensively. "The alignment is within acceptable parameters." Riley frowned and continued her analysis. "Something's drawing power from the main systems, creating microfluctuations in the quantum field." She pointed to a section of the schematic. "What's in this chamber?" "It's connected to the propulsion system, but it's not in any of the standard designs I've studied." Commander Vex and Chief Engineer Thala exchanged an uneasy glance. "That section is restricted," Vex said firmly. "It contains sensitive Imperial technology." Riley crossed her arms. "Well, that sensitive Imperial technology is affecting your propulsion system. I need to see it if you want me to fix your ship." After a tense moment of silence, Thala turned to Commander Vex. "We have no choice, Commander. The Emperor must be informed." While Vex contacted the Emperor, Riley continued to study the diagnostics. Something about the energy signatures seemed familiar, yet distinctly alien. She'd never seen readings quite like these before, even in the most advanced ships she'd worked on. 10 minutes later, Emperor Zoltan himself arrived in the engine room, flanked by a contingent of Imperial guards. The Centauri engineers bowed deeply as he entered. "Engineer Cooper," the Emperor addressed Riley directly, his tone grave. "Commander Vex informs me that you need access to the restricted chamber. Before I consider granting such unprecedented access, you must understand what you're asking." Riley straightened her posture. "With respect, Your Majesty, I'm asking to do the job I was sent here to do." The Emperor's filaments quivered with what Riley recognized as anxiety. "The chamber contains technology of non-Centauri origin. Technology that predates our civilization and possibly all known civilizations in the galaxy." Now Riley was genuinely intrigued. "Ancient tech? Like the precursor artifacts found in the Sagittarius Arm?" "Far older," the Emperor said solemnly. "What we call the Titan. It was discovered buried within an asteroid near the galactic core, perfectly preserved after perhaps billions of years. We integrated certain aspects of its technology into the Dominion, but much of it remains beyond our understanding." Riley whistled softly. "And you think the Titan is causing the propulsion issues?" "We believe the Titan may be reacting to something," Emperor Zoltan said carefully. "Its energy output has increased steadily over the past month, though we've made no changes to the integration systems." "I need to see it," Riley insisted. "Whatever it is, it's affecting the entire ship." After a moment of consideration, the Emperor nodded. "Very well, but you are to observe only. Touch nothing without explicit permission." Riley followed the Emperor and his entourage through a series of heavily secured doors to a chamber located deep within the ship's core. As the final door slid open, Riley felt her breath catch in her throat. In the center of the circular room, suspended within a complex containment field, was what appeared to be a metallic cube approximately 2 meters on each side. Its surface was covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and change as she watched, despite the object itself remaining perfectly still. The cube emitted a soft, pulsating glow that bathed the chamber in an eerie light. "The Titan," Emperor Zoltan said reverently. "Or at least a fragment of what we believe was once a much larger construct." Riley approached the containment field, her expert eyes scanning the integration systems that connected the ancient artifact to the ship's propulsion network. "How long has it been active like this?" "It has always exhibited some level of energy output," Chief Engineer Thala explained. "But in the past 3 weeks, the output has increased exponentially, causing fluctuations in our systems." Riley circled the containment field, studying the connections and the artifact itself. The patterns on its surface reminded her of circuit pathways, but more organic, almost like a neural network. Has anything changed recently? Did you modify any systems, enter any new regions of space, encounter any unusual phenomena? The Centauri engineers looked at one another uncertainly. We recovered another fragment, Emperor Zoltan admitted. A smaller piece, discovered in the same asteroid field as the original. We brought it aboard for study 3 weeks ago. Riley gave the Emperor a pointed look. That seems like relevant information that might have been helpful to know from the start. The Emperor's skin flushed purple again. The recovery of precursor artifacts is highly classified. Where's the second fragment now? Riley asked. In a separate containment field in the adjacent laboratory, Thala answered. We've kept it isolated from ship systems, but... She hesitated. But what? Riley prompted. But we've observed what appears to be quantum entanglement between the two fragments, Commander Vex finished. They seem to be communicating, though we cannot decipher how or why. Riley rubbed her chin thoughtfully. I need to see the other fragment. And I need to see the raw data from both containment fields since the second artifact was brought aboard. More reluctant glances were exchanged, but the Emperor eventually agreed. In the adjacent laboratory, Riley found a smaller cube, perhaps 20 centimeters on each side, with identical shifting patterns on its surface. Unlike the larger fragment, this one was pulsating more rapidly, almost urgently. They're definitely communicating, Riley confirmed after reviewing the data. And I think I know what's happening. The smaller fragment is trying to integrate with the larger one, but your containment fields are preventing it. The energy buildup is feeding back into your ship's systems, causing the propulsion issues. Can you fix it? The Emperor asked, his earlier skepticism now replaced with cautious hope. Riley considered her options. I think so. We need to modify the containment fields to allow limited quantum communication between the fragments without fully releasing them. It's like, she searched for an analogy the Centauri would understand. It's like they're siblings trying to talk to each other through a wall. They're shouting louder and louder, and the shouting is shaking your house's foundation. We need to give them a door, but one we can close if necessary. Chief Engineer Thala looked uncertain. Modifying the containment fields could be dangerous. If we lose containment entirely. We won't, Riley assured her. I've worked with quantum fields before. Not with ancient tech this advanced, admittedly, but the principles are the same. After much discussion and careful planning, the Emperor authorized Riley to proceed with her modifications. Working alongside the Centauri engineers, she reconfigured the containment systems, creating a carefully controlled quantum corridor between the two fragments. As the final adjustments were made, Riley stood back and watched the monitoring systems. Okay, we're ready. Activating quantum corridor in 3, 2, 1. The moment the corridor opened, both fragments began to pulse in perfect synchronization, their patterns flowing more smoothly. The ship's diagnostic systems showed the propulsion fluctuations beginning to stabilize. It's working, Thala exclaimed, her skin shifting to a pleased violet hue. Riley smiled, satisfied with her solution. They just needed to communicate. Your propulsion system should be back to normal within the hour. Emperor Zoltan approached Riley, his posture conveying what she recognized as grudging respect. It seems the Galactic Union was correct about human mechanical intuition. You have my gratitude, Engineer Cooper. Riley nodded modestly. Happy to help, Your Majesty. Though I'd recommend having a human specialist examine these artifacts more thoroughly. There's something about them that seems. Before she could finish her sentence, the ship lurched violently, throwing everyone off balance. The lights flickered, and warning alarms blared throughout the chamber. What's happening? The Emperor demanded, steadying himself against a console. Chief Engineer Thala rushed to the monitoring systems, her 4 eyes widening in alarm. The quantum corridor. It's expanding beyond parameters. The fragments are drawing more power from the ship's systems. Riley moved quickly to the control panel. The corridor's growth rate is accelerating. We need to shut it down. She worked frantically to close the quantum connection she'd created, but the system wasn't responding to her commands. The patterns on both fragments were shifting more rapidly now, pulsing with increasing intensity. It's not accepting the shutdown sequence. Riley shouted over the alarms. The fragments are overriding our controls. Commander Vex drew his energy weapon. Should we destroy the smaller fragment? No. Riley and Thala shouted simultaneously. The energy release could destroy the ship, Thala explained urgently. Riley's mind raced as she tried to find a solution. The ship shuddered again, more violently this time, and she was nearly thrown across the room. As she regained her footing, she noticed something odd about the patterns on the smaller fragment. They seemed to be forming what looked almost like an interface. Wait, she said, moving closer to the smaller cube. I think it's trying to communicate with us directly. Engineer Cooper, step away from the artifact. Emperor Zoltan commanded, but Riley was already studying the pattern interface with intense concentration. These patterns, they're not random. They're structured, like a language or a code. She pointed to a recurring sequence. This pattern has appeared 12 times in the exact same configuration. It's not changing like the others. A static access point, Thala murmured, coming to stand beside Riley despite the Emperor's protests. Like a button? Riley nodded slowly. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe the Titan isn't malfunctioning. Maybe it's waiting for input. This is madness, Commander Vex objected. You can't possibly understand the intentions of technology billions of years old. No, Riley agreed. But I understand machines, and every machine I've ever encountered was built to be used by someone. She studied the pattern interface more closely. These fragments want to be whole again, but I think they need authorization. The ship shuddered once more, and the lights dimmed as the fragments drew even more power from the Dominion's systems. We're running out of options, Riley said grimly. The fragments are going to keep drawing power until they either break through your containment fields or drain your ship completely. Emperor Zoltan's filaments trembled with indecision. What do you propose? Riley took a deep breath. I think we need to give them what they want. Let me interact with the interface. Absolutely not. Commander Vex protested. The risk is too great. The risk is greater if we do nothing, Riley countered. She turned to the Emperor. Your Majesty, I believe this is our best chance. After a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, Emperor Zoltan gave a slight nod. Proceed, Engineer Cooper. But with extreme caution. Riley approached the containment field surrounding the smaller fragment. The pattern she'd identified as a potential interface pulsed more brightly as she drew near, as if recognizing her presence. I'm going to need to touch it directly, she said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her body. The containment field might be interfering with whatever authentication system it's using. That is not advisable, Thala warned. Direct contact with precursor technology has been known to have unpredictable effects. We're out of advisable options, Riley replied. She looked to the Emperor for final authorization. With grave reluctance, Emperor Zoltan gave the order to lower the containment field around the smaller fragment. As the shimmering barrier dissipated, the cube's pulsations intensified, the pattern interface now glowing with an almost blinding light. Riley reached out her hand toward the cube, her fingers hovering just centimeters from its surface. The air around the artifact seemed to vibrate with potential energy. Engineer Cooper, the Emperor said urgently, a sudden premonition of danger overwhelming him. Don't touch that. But Riley's hand had already made contact with the glowing pattern. The moment her skin touched the ancient metal, a surge of energy coursed through her body. Riley gasped as information flooded her consciousness. Images, symbols, concepts beyond human understanding, yet somehow comprehensible to her mind. The cube grew hot beneath her palm, but she found herself unable to pull away. Riley, Thala called out in alarm, but her voice seemed distant, muffled. Through the overwhelming flood of information, Riley understood one critical fact. The fragments weren't merely artifacts. They were components of something vast, something sentient, something that had slumbered for eons until now. The The Titan was awakening. The smaller cube began to transform beneath Riley's touch, its solid form becoming fluid, metallic nanites flowing over her hand and up her arm. She should have been terrified, but somehow she knew it wasn't attacking her. It was communicating, using her as a conduit. What's happening to her? Commander Vex demanded, raising his weapon once more. Don't shoot, Fala ordered, restraining his arm. You might kill her. The larger fragment in the main chamber was changing too, its containment field flickering as its form began to shift and expand. The patterns on both fragments synchronized perfectly, pulsing in a rhythm that seemed to match Riley's heartbeat. With a final surge of energy that momentarily blinded everyone in the room, the nanites withdrew from Riley's arm, and the smaller cube shot across the laboratory, passing effortlessly through the wall that separated it from the larger fragment, as if the solid barrier were merely an illusion. Riley collapsed to her knees, gasping for breath, as alarms blared throughout the ship. Emperor Zoltan rushed to the communication panel, demanding status reports from the main chamber. The fragments have merged, came the panicked reply. The containment field has failed completely. The Titan is changing. Riley struggled to her feet, her mind still reeling from the contact with the ancient technology. We need to get to the main chamber, she said urgently. Now. Despite Commander Vex's protests, the Emperor led the way back to the main chamber, where an astonishing sight greeted them. The merged fragments had expanded to fill much of the room, their form now resembling a humanoid figure over 10 meters tall, composed of the same shifting metallic substance. The figure stood motionless, its featureless face turned toward the entrance as if it had been waiting for them. The Titan, Emperor Zoltan whispered, equal parts awe and terror in his voice. As if responding to its name, the figure's face shifted, forming features that were eerily human-like despite their metallic composition. Its eyes fixed on Riley, and when it spoke, its voice resonated not through the air but directly in their minds. Thank you, Riley Cooper of Earth, the Titan communicated. You have awakened me from my long dormancy. Riley stepped forward, drawn by an inexplicable connection to the ancient being. What are you? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I am a guardian, the Titan replied. Created to watch over the younger races, to guide when needed, to protect when necessary. My kind scattered across the stars billions of years ago, entering dormancy until we were needed again. Needed for what? Emperor Zoltan asked, his earlier fear now mingled with curiosity. The Titan's metallic features shifted into what might have been a grave expression. A threat approaches, one that has consumed countless civilizations across multiple galaxies. I was awakened because it has entered this galaxy. A chill ran down Riley's spine. What kind of threat? They are called the Void, the Titan answered. They exist to unmake creation, to return all matter and energy to the emptiness from which it came. They have pursued my kind across the cosmos for eons. And you've been hiding in an asteroid all this time? Commander Vex asked skeptically. Not hiding. Waiting. The Titan's gaze returned to Riley. Waiting for the right connection. Our creators designed us to respond to specific neural patterns. In all the millennia your species has explored the stars, Riley Cooper, you are the first human to make direct contact with one of my kind. Riley frowned, puzzled. But humans have only been in space for a few centuries. Your creators couldn't have known about us. Unless they were human, Thala suggested quietly, her scientific mind racing with implications. The Titan's form shifted slightly, the patterns across its surface rippling. Not human as you understand yourselves today, but your distant ancestors. Before the Great Collapse, before your species nearly destroyed itself, humans achieved technological marvels beyond your current comprehension. My creators were from that lost era. The revelation struck them all into silence. Humans, primitive, short-lived humans, had once created beings like the Titan? It seemed impossible, yet the evidence stood before them. Emperor Zoltan was the first to recover his composure. You said a threat approaches. How imminent is this danger? The Void entered the outer reaches of this galaxy approximately one of your Earth years ago, the Titan replied. They move slowly but inexorably. I estimate they will reach populated systems within 5 of your years unless they are stopped. And can they be stopped? Riley asked. With difficulty, the Titan acknowledged. But it is possible. More of my kind slumber throughout this galaxy. They must be awakened and reunited if we are to stand against the void. How many? Commander Vex inquired, his tactical mind already assessing the strategic implications. 12 in total were placed in this galaxy, the Titan answered. I can sense that 11 still remain dormant. Riley's mind was reeling with the implications. Ancient guardians created by prehistoric humans, an existential threat approaching from beyond the galaxy. And somehow she had become entangled in it all because of her mechanical intuition. Why me? She asked the Titan. Why did you respond to my touch? The metallic being regarded her with what might have been warmth. Your neural patterns match those my creators programmed me to recognize. Not identical. Millennia of evolution have changed your species, but similar enough. Your problem-solving approach, your intuitive understanding of technology, these qualities resonate with my activation parameters. Emperor Zoltan stepped forward, his imperial bearing reasserted despite the extraordinary circumstances. What do you require of us, Guardian? The Centauri Empire stands ready to defend this galaxy. The Titan turned its attention to the Emperor. Your willingness to protect is commendable, Emperor Zoltan. But this threat requires a united response from all sapient species. No single empire, however mighty, can stand alone against the void. The Galactic Union, Riley suggested. Representatives from all major species already work together through the Union. Yes, the Titan agreed. A coalition is necessary. And humans must play a central role, for only they can awaken my dormant kin. Commander Vex frowned. If only humans can activate these guardians, and the void will reach populated systems in 5 years, we face a logistical challenge. There are relatively few humans in space compared to other species, and they're scattered across different systems. That is indeed a challenge, the Titan acknowledged, but not insurmountable. Riley's practical nature asserted itself as she considered the problem. We need to locate the other guardians first. Can you sense where they are? I can provide approximate locations, the Titan confirmed. But pinpointing their exact positions will require closer proximity. So we need to organize search teams, Riley mused, each with at least one human technician or engineer. Emperor Zoltan's filaments quivered with excitement. The Dominion could serve as command center for this operation. We have the resources and capacity to coordinate such an effort. The Titan inclined its head in what appeared to be approval. Time is limited, but not critically so. We must proceed with purpose, but without panic. The awakening of my kind must be handled with care. Improper activation could result in damaged guardians, which would serve no one. As the implications of their situation continued to unfold, Riley found herself at the center of a cosmic drama she could never have imagined when she boarded the Imperial shuttle that morning. She had come to fix a ship. Instead, she had awakened an ancient guardian and discovered a threat to all life in the galaxy. And somehow, it seemed that humans, supposedly primitive, newcomer humans, might be the key to saving everyone. I need to contact Earth, Riley said firmly, and the Galactic Union. We need to assemble teams of human engineers and technicians immediately. Emperor Zoltan nodded. You shall have full access to our communication systems, Engineer Cooper, and the support of the Centauri fleet. As plans began to form and urgent messages were dispatched across the galaxy, Riley found herself returning to a simple truth that had guided her throughout her career. Sometimes the most complex problems required a human touch. The Titan watched the flurry of activity with the patience of a being that had slumbered for billions of years. The threat was real, the danger immense, but for the first time in countless millennia, hope had awakened alongside the Guardian. And it had all begun because a human mechanic hadn't heeded an Emperor's warning. Sometimes, Riley reflected with a small smile, the most important things in the universe came down to knowing exactly what to touch. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Ancient guardians slumbered among the stars. A cosmic threat approached from the void beyond, and somehow, humans were the key to salvation. Within days of the Titans' awakening, the Galactic Union convened an emergency session on the neutral world of Proxima Centauri, where representatives from 17 major spacefaring species gathered to address the crisis. Riley Cooper found herself at the center of the maelstrom, suddenly elevated from ship mechanic to the human who had awakened the Titan. She stood before the assembled delegates in the Grand Chamber, uncomfortable in the formal diplomatic attire that had been hastily provided for her. The Titan stood behind her, its massive metallic form drawing gasps and murmurs from the assembled representatives. The evidence before us is undeniable, High Chancellor Mira of the Galactic Union proclaimed, her crystalline form refracting light in patterns that conveyed her agitation. The Guardian known as the Titan has provided detailed stellar cartography of the void's approach. Our own long-range sensors have confirmed unusual gravitational anomalies consistent with its description. That does not mean we should entrust our fate to these so-called guardians, objected Ambassador Krell of the Saurian Collective, his scaled skin bristling with skepticism. They claim to have been created by ancient humans? The same humans who only achieved faster-than-light travel 3 centuries ago? This strains credibility. Riley stepped forward, pushing past her nervousness. I understand your skepticism, Ambassador. I shared it initially, but I felt the connection when I touched the artifact. The Titan's knowledge of our galaxy's defensive capabilities is comprehensive. It knows things about our technologies that it couldn't possibly know unless it had been observing us for millennia. Emperor Zoltan, representing the Centauri Empire, rose from his seat. The Centauri have already pledged our support to this endeavor. We have witnessed the Guardian's power firsthand. It repaired our flagship's propulsion system in seconds once fully awakened, technology that our finest engineers struggled with for weeks. The debate continued for hours, positions gradually shifting from outright skepticism to cautious consideration. Throughout it all, the Titan remained silent, allowing the organic beings to reach their own conclusions. Finally, High Chancellor Mira called for a vote. One by one, the representatives of the 17 systems cast their support behind the plan. 12 expeditions would be launched simultaneously, each targeting the approximate location of a dormant guardian. Each team led by human engineers and technicians with support from the various species of the Galactic Union. As the session concluded, Riley found herself surrounded by a group of human representatives who had been hastily summoned from Earth and various colonies. You've certainly put us on the galactic map, Cooper, remarked Commander Ethan Cole, a weathered veteran of the Earth Space Command. Suddenly, everyone wants human engineers on their ships. Riley shrugged. Not exactly how I plan to advance human-alien relations, but I'll take it. A tall woman with close-cropped gray hair extended her hand. Admiral Sarah Morgan, Earth Fleet. I've been assigned to coordinate the human elements of this operation. Her firm handshake matched her no-nonsense demeanor. We're selecting team leads for each expedition. Given your experience with the First Guardian, you're our top candidate to head the primary team. Riley's eyes widened. Me? I'm just a mechanic, not a military leader or diplomat. You're the only human who's successfully awakened a guardian, Admiral Morgan pointed out. That makes you uniquely qualified. Besides, according to your service record, you've logged more hours on alien vessels than any other human engineer in the Union. Before Riley could formulate a response, the Titan approached, its massive form moving with surprising grace despite its size. The crowd of humans parted respectfully. Riley Cooper. The Titan communicated directly to their minds. The Admiral's assessment is correct. Your neural patterns have been recognized by my systems. You have the highest probability of successfully awakening my kin. Riley looked up at the towering metallic being. Can't you just tell us exactly how to do it? Why do I specifically need to be there? The awakening process is not merely mechanical, the Titan explained. It requires a compatible consciousness to establish initial connection. Think of it as a key that must fit precisely into a lock. Your mind is such a key. Commander Cole whistled low. No pressure or anything, Cooper. Admiral Morgan shot him a stern look before turning back to Riley. The first expedition leaves tomorrow. The Titan has identified the closest dormant guardian in the Epsilon Eridani system. You'll be taking the Centauri flagship, with Emperor Zoltan himself accompanying you. Riley nodded slowly, the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. What about the other teams? We're assembling them now, Admiral Morgan replied. 11 other human engineers and technicians with high compatibility ratings, according to the Titan's assessment. Each will lead a separate expedition. And if we fail? Riley asked quietly. If we can't awaken them all in time? The Titan's metallic features shifted into what might have been a solemn expression. Then this galaxy will face the void fragmented and unprepared. The outcome would be suboptimal. Riley recognized that as ancient guardian understatement for total annihilation. 24 hours later, Riley stood on the bridge of the Dominion as it prepared to enter hyperspace. The massive Imperial flagship had been reconfigured for its new mission, with a special chamber constructed to house the Titan and additional quarters added for the mixed-species crew. Emperor Zoltan approached as Riley studied the star charts displaying their destination. Engineer Cooper. He greeted her with considerably more warmth than during their first meeting. Are you prepared for our journey? As prepared as I can be, Riley replied honestly, though I'm still trying to wrap my head around all of this. A week ago, I was fixing propulsion systems on commercial freighters. Now I'm apparently the galaxy's best hope against cosmic destroyers. The Emperor's filaments rippled in what Riley had learned was the Centauri equivalent of a sympathetic smile. If it provides any comfort, I have ruled an empire spanning 3-star systems for 2 centuries, and I find myself equally bewildered by recent events. Riley appreciated the Emperor's attempt at camaraderie. Has there been any word from the other teams? All 11 expeditions have departed, Zoltan confirmed. The Galactic Union has provided its fastest vessels. Some will reach their destinations before us, others after. The Titan estimates that if all goes well, we could have all 12 Guardians awakened within 2 standard months. And then what? Riley asked. Even with all 12 Guardians, how do we stop something that destroys entire galaxies? Before the Emperor could respond, Commander Vex approached with a formal bow. Your Majesty, we are ready to depart. The Titan requests Engineer Cooper's presence in its chamber before we enter hyperspace. Riley found the Titan standing motionless in the center of the large chamber that had been converted for its use. The room was bare except for various monitoring equipment that the Centauri scientists had installed to study the Guardian. You wish to see me? Riley asked as she entered. The Titan turned toward her, its metallic face shifting to form more defined features. Yes, Riley Cooper. As we approach the first of my dormant kin, I must prepare you for what you will experience. You mean when I touch the next Guardian? Yes. The connection you established with me was rudimentary. I was able to awaken because the Centauri had already partially activated my systems by integrating them with their ship. The other Guardians will be in deeper dormancy. What does that mean for me? Riley asked, a note of apprehension in her voice. The neural connection will be more profound, the Titan explained. You will temporarily experience the Guardian's accumulated knowledge and awareness. It may be overwhelming for an organic mind. Riley swallowed hard. Will it hurt? Not physically, the Titan assured her. But the information transfer may be disorienting. Your brain will process only what it can comprehend, but even that fraction represents more data than most humans encounter in a lifetime. Great, Riley muttered. And I'm guessing there's no way around this? No technical workaround? I'm afraid not. The authentication process requires direct neural contact. It is a security measure designed to prevent hostile forces from awakening and controlling Guardians. Riley nodded resignedly. At least tell me what we're looking for. What form will the next Guardian take? Like me, it will appear as a non-functional relic until awakened, the Titan explained. My kin took many forms before entering dormancy, some integrated with planetary bodies, others with asteroids or artificial structures. The Guardian in the Epsilon Eridani system embedded itself within a small moon orbiting the fourth planet. A moon? Riley echoed, eyes widening. How are we supposed to awaken something that large? The Guardian's control node will be accessible, the Titan assured her. Similar to how your Centauri friends accessed my primary fragment. The rest of its mass remains in quantum suspension until activation. Before Riley could ask more questions, the ship's communication system announced imminent hyperspace entry. She braced herself as the familiar sensation of hyperspace transition washed over her. A momentary disorientation as the Dominion slipped between the fabric of normal space. We should reach the Epsilon Eridani system in approximately 10 standard hours, the Titan informed her. I suggest you rest while you can, Riley Cooper. The awakening of my kin will require your full strength and concentration. The moon hung in space before them, unremarkable at first glance, a cratered, airless rock orbiting a gas giant. But as the Dominion approached, the Titan directed them to a specific region near the moon's equator where long-range scans detected unusual energy readings. The Guardian's control node is there, the Titan confirmed from its position on the bridge. Below the surface, approximately 200 meters down, Emperor Zoltan turned to Riley. Are you ready, Engineer Cooper? Riley checked her environmental suit one last time and nodded. As ready as I'll ever be. The landing party consisted of Riley, Commander Vex, 2 Centauri scientists, and a security team. They descended to the moon's surface in a shuttle, landing near a formation of unusual crystalline structures that jutted from the regolith like enormous transparent fingers reaching for the stars. These weren't visible from orbit, Riley remarked as they disembarked, her voice coming through the suit's communication system. Quantum camouflage, one of the scientists explained, scanning the crystals with a handheld device. They only become visible within a certain proximity. The Titan had remained aboard the Dominion, but maintained telepathic communication with the landing party. The crystals are navigation markers, its voice echoed in their minds. Follow them to the access point. The team made their way across the lunar surface, moving from one crystal formation to another. Despite the low gravity, progress was slow as they carefully navigated the treacherous terrain. Finally, they reached a flat area where the crystals formed a perfect circle 30 meters in diameter. The entrance is at the center of this formation, the Titan guided them. Riley approached the center of the crystal circle, where the lunar dust seemed to shimmer slightly, as if disturbed by an invisible force. I don't see anything. It will respond to your presence, the Titan assured her. Step into the exact center. With some trepidation, Riley moved to the center point. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ground beneath her feet began to glow with a soft blue light. The lunar dust shifted and parted, revealing a perfectly circular opening 2 meters wide. A vertical shaft, Commander Vex observed, peering down. It appears to descend quite deeply. 200 meters, to be precise, the Titan confirmed. There is a gravity lift system that should still be operational. Riley looked dubiously at the dark shaft. And how do we activate this gravity lift? The same way you will activate the Guardian, the Titan replied. With your touch. Taking a deep breath, Riley knelt beside the shaft and placed her gloved hand against its interior wall. Immediately, the entire shaft illuminated with the same blue glow, and Riley felt the subtle hum of ancient technology awakening beneath her palm. I believe it's working, she said, standing up again. The lift field will catch you and control your descent, the Titan instructed. You must go first, Riley Cooper. The system will only admit others after initial human contact. Riley peered down the glowing shaft, then looked at her companions. See you at the bottom, I guess. Before anyone could offer further advice or warnings, Riley stepped into the opening and felt herself falling, but only for an instant. The sensation of falling quickly transformed into a gentle floating as the gravity field caught her, slowing her descent to a comfortable pace. Blue light surrounded her as she descended deeper and deeper into the moon. After several minutes, The shaft opened into a vast underground chamber that took her breath away. The space was enormous, at least a kilometer across and half as high, its walls covered in the same shifting patterns she had observed on the Titan's surface. At the center of the chamber stood a pyramid-shaped structure about 50 meters tall, composed of what appeared to be the same metallic material as the Titan. As Riley floated down to the chamber floor, she activated her suit's communication system. "I'm inside. You guys need to see this." One by one, the other members of the landing party descended through the shaft, their expressions of awe visible even through their helmet visors as they took in the enormous chamber. "Incredible," breathed one of the Centauri scientists. "This chamber must have been hollowed out of the moon's core." "Not hollowed," the Titan corrected through their mental link. "Created. When my kin chose this location, they restructured the moon's interior at the molecular level to accommodate their dormant form." Commander Vex whistled, the sound distorted through his suit speakers. "These guardians of yours don't do anything by half measures, do they?" Efficiency was prioritized, the Titan responded simply. Riley approached the pyramid structure, drawn to it by an inexplicable sense of familiarity. "This is the control node?" "Yes," confirmed the Titan. "The interface should be on the eastern face." Following these instructions, Riley circled the pyramid until she found what she was looking for, a panel of shifting patterns similar to what she had seen on the Titan's fragments, but larger and more complex. Unlike the rest of the chamber, which was illuminated by a diffuse blue light, this panel pulsed with a soft golden glow. "What now?" Riley asked, though she already knew the answer. "You must establish direct contact," the Titan instructed. "Remove your glove and place your hand on the interface." Riley looked back at the Centauri team, who had gathered several meters behind her, instruments at the ready to record whatever happened next. "You might want to give me some space. Based on what happened last time, this could get energetic." As the team retreated to a safer distance, Riley slowly removed the glove from her right hand, exposing her skin to the ancient chamber's atmosphere. Environmental readings indicated it was safe, temperature and pressure nearly identical to Earth standard, despite being inside an airless moon. "Here goes nothing," Riley murmured, and pressed her palm against the golden interface. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Just as the Titan had warned, Riley's consciousness was flooded with information, star charts spanning billions of years, technologies beyond current comprehension, memories of civilizations long extinct. She gasped, her knees buckling as her mind struggled to process the deluge. Unlike her experience with the Titan, which had been relatively brief, this connection deepened with each passing second. Riley felt her sense of self being temporarily subsumed by something vast and ancient, her identity a tiny spark in an ocean of awareness. Through the torrent of information, she glimpsed the truth of the Guardian's creation, prehistoric humans, not so different from herself in appearance, but with technology millennia beyond current capabilities, working frantically as their civilization faced imminent collapse. They had created the Guardians not just as protectors against the void, but as repositories for their knowledge, assurance that even if humanity fell, something of their achievements would endure. She saw the void, not a physical entity as she had imagined, but a quantum-level breakdown of reality itself, a cancer in the fabric of space-time that consumed everything it touched, reducing matter and energy to absolute nothingness. Just as Riley feared her mind would shatter under the strain, the connection began to recede. The flood of information slowed to a manageable stream, then to individual droplets of knowledge that settled into her consciousness, like stars finding their place in a new constellation. When she opened her eyes, Riley found herself on her knees before the pyramid, which was now pulsing with intense golden light. The entire chamber had come alive, the patterns on the walls flowing like liquid metal, converging toward the pyramid at the center. "Riley," Commander Vex called out, his voice laced with concern. "Are you all right?" Riley stood slowly, surprised to find that despite the mental ordeal, she felt physically stronger than before. "I'm fine," she assured him, her voice steady. Better than fine, actually. Before she could explain further, the pyramid began to transform. Its metallic surface flowed and reshaped, expanding upward and outward. The landing party retreated hastily as the structure grew larger and more complex, eventually taking the form of a towering humanoid figure similar to the Titan, but with distinct differences. More angular in design, its surface patterns geometric rather than flowing. When the transformation completed, the second guardian stood before them, a colossus of ancient technology nearly twice the size of the Titan. It regarded them silently for a long moment, its featureless face slowly forming into a more defined visage. "I am Helios." The guardian's voice resonated directly in their minds, deeper and more harmonic than the Titan's. Awakened from dormancy by human touch, as the protocols require, Riley stepped forward, still reeling from the connection experience, but driven by a new sense of purpose. "I'm Riley Cooper. We've come to—" "I know why you have come, Riley Cooper," Helios interrupted gently. "The awakening transferred your knowledge to me, just as my knowledge flowed into you. The void approaches. My kin must be united." The Guardian turned its attention to the Centauri team, who stood in awe at the magnificent being. "Your assistance is appreciated, Centauri. Long have we watched your species grow among the stars." Commander Vex managed a formal bow despite his obvious amazement. "We are honored to serve in this endeavor, Guardian Helios." The massive figure nodded in acknowledgement before addressing Riley again. "The connection has changed you, Riley Cooper. You have noticed this already, have you not?" Riley had indeed noticed something different, a clarity of thought, an expanded awareness that hadn't been present before. "What's happening to me?" "The neural interface leaves traces," Helios explained. "Echoes of Guardian consciousness that enhance compatible minds. With each awakening you facilitate, these changes will compound. It is part of the design. The human awakeners were meant to serve as intermediaries between Guardians and younger species." "So I'm becoming what?" "Part Guardian," Riley asked, unsure whether to be fascinated or alarmed. "No. You remain fully human, but with expanded cognitive capabilities. Your species has always possessed the potential for such development. It is encoded in your DNA, a legacy of your creator ancestors." This revelation stunned the Centauri team as much as it did Riley. The implication that modern humans carried the genetic potential of their technologically advanced ancestors raised profound questions about human evolution and history. "We should return to the ship," Commander Vex suggested, recovering his composure. The Dominion's sensors detected unusual energy surges when the Guardian awakened. "It would be prudent to report our success to Emperor Zoltan and the Galactic Union." Riley nodded in agreement, though part of her was reluctant to leave this incredible place. "Will you join us, Helios?" "Like the Titan did." "I must remain here briefly to complete my reactivation sequence," Helios replied. "This moon is not merely my resting place. It is a nexus of quantum communication that will allow me to contact my still dormant kin. I will join you in orbit when this task is complete." As the landing party prepared to return to the surface, Riley felt a surge of optimism. 2 Guardians awakened, 10 more to go. Perhaps they could actually succeed in this impossible mission. Over the next 7 weeks, Riley traveled from system to system, awakening Guardian after Guardian. Each experience was unique, yet familiar. The overwhelming flood of information, the transformation as ancient technology returned to life, the subtle changes in her own mind as she accumulated traces of Guardian consciousness. Neptune, a Guardian embedded in the ice rings of a gas giant. Gaia, slumbering within the mantle of a terrestrial world. Atlas, disguised as a small asteroid in a remote belt. One by one, the 12 Guardians of the Milky Way awakened to Riley's touch, each bringing unique capabilities and knowledge to their collective defense against the approaching void. With each awakening, Riley's understanding of the cosmos expanded. The neural traces left by the Guardians gave her insights into technologies long forgotten, awareness of cosmic processes invisible to normal human perception, and a growing sense of humanity's true place in the universal order. News of the Guardians spread throughout the galaxy, transforming how other species viewed humans. Once dismissed as newcomers to interstellar society, humans were now recognized as descendants of a founding civilization, carriers of the genetic key that could activate the ancient protectors. After the final Guardian, a being called Kronos who had embedded itself in a pulsar's radiation belt, was awakened, the 12 colossal entities convened aboard the Dominion for a summit with the leaders of the Galactic Union. The ship's largest hangar had been converted to accommodate the massive Guardians, who stood in a circle around a holographic display of the galaxy. The void will reach the outer systems within 4 standard years, Kronos announced, its voice a deep resonance that vibrated through the minds of all present. Less time than originally estimated, but sufficient for our preparations. What exactly are these preparations? High Chancellor Mira asked, her crystalline form glittering with tension. How does one fight against the unmaking of reality itself? The Titan stepped forward. The void operates by corrupting quantum fields at their most fundamental level. It cannot be destroyed in conventional terms, but it can be contained and redirected. We will construct a quantum barrier at the galaxy's edge, Helios continued. A wall of structured reality that the void cannot penetrate. Emperor Zoltan's filaments quivered skeptically. Is such a thing even possible? The galaxy is vast beyond comprehension. It is possible, Neptune confirmed, its liquid metal form shifting like waves on an ocean. But it will require resources and cooperation from all species of the Galactic Union. The barrier must be anchored to significant gravitational wells at strategic points throughout the galactic perimeter. Riley, who had been listening quietly, suddenly understood. You're talking about using stars as anchor points, creating a network that spans the entire galactic edge. Precisely, Atlas acknowledged, its voice like grinding stone. 12 primary nodes, each maintained by one Guardian, connected by thousands of secondary nodes established at stellar coordinates we will provide. The scope of the project was staggering, a galaxy-wide engineering effort unlike anything attempted in recorded history. Yet as the Guardians explained their plan in greater detail, even the most skeptical representatives began to see its feasibility. We have the technology, Gaia assured them, her form reminiscent of intertwined root systems. What we require is your cooperation and Riley Cooper's continued assistance. My assistance? Riley asked, surprised to be singled out. Haven't I completed my role? All 12 Guardians are awakened. The Titan turned to face her directly. Your role has only begun, Riley Cooper. The neural traces you now carry make you uniquely suited to serve as intermediary between Guardians and the younger races. You understand both perspectives in ways no other being can. The quantum barrier will require precise calibration across vast distances, Kronos added. Your enhanced consciousness can help coordinate these efforts in ways that conventional communication cannot. Riley looked around at the assembled leaders of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations, all watching her expectantly. 7 weeks ago, she had been a simple mechanic sent to fix a ship. Now, she was being asked to help coordinate the defense of an entire galaxy. I don't know if I'm qualified for this, she admitted honestly. Emperor Zoltan, who had become something of a mentor to Riley during their travels, stepped to her side. None of us are qualified to face the unmaking of reality, Engineer Cooper. Yet here we stand, confronting it nonetheless. High Chancellor Mira joined them. The Galactic Union formally requests your service in this capacity, Riley Cooper of Earth. We can think of no being better suited to bridge the gap between the ancient Guardians and our modern civilizations. Riley took a deep breath, considering the extraordinary path that had led her to this moment, all because she had touched something an alien emperor had warned against. Sometimes the most important things in the universe came down to one impulsive action, one moment of human curiosity that changed everything. All right, she said finally. I'll do it, but I'll need a bigger toolbox. The comment broke the tension in the room, drawing laughter from many of the assembled leaders. Even the Guardian's metallic features shifted in what might have been amusement. That can be arranged, the Titan assured her. 3 years later, Riley stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Guardian Station Omega, a massive space platform orbiting a neutron star at the galaxy's outer edge. Through the reinforced viewport, she could see the quantum barrier taking shape, a shimmering curtain of energy that stretched across the starfield, almost beautiful in its complexity. "Quite a view," remarked a familiar voice behind her. Riley turned to see Admiral Sarah Morgan approaching, now sporting an additional set of stars on her uniform. "Admiral, I didn't know you were visiting Omega today. Just arrived from Earth with the latest contingent of engineers," Morgan replied, coming to stand beside Riley at the viewport. "The President wanted a first-hand report on our progress." "You can tell her we're on schedule," Riley said, gesturing to the barrier. 11 of the 12 primary nodes are operational. The final node comes online next week, and then we begin activating the secondary network. Admiral Morgan nodded approvingly. 3 years ago, most humans had never heard of the Void or the Guardians. Now we have teams working alongside every spacefaring species in the galaxy on the largest cooperative project in history. "Funny how things work out," Riley mused. "One minute you're fixing a ship's propulsion system, the next you're helping build a galactic defense shield." "Speaking of which," Morgan said, studying Riley with interest, "the neural traces have continued to develop, haven't they? The scientists on Earth are fascinated by the changes in your cognitive patterns." Riley shrugged. "I still feel like me, just more. It's hard to explain. I see connections that weren't visible before. I understand technologies that would have seemed like magic 3 years ago. The Guardians say similar changes are beginning to manifest in other humans who've worked closely with them," Morgan informed her. "Not as pronounced as yours, but noticeable. Some are calling it the next step in human evolution." "That feels a bit dramatic," Riley said with a small laugh. "We're just remembering what we once knew, according to the Guardians. Reconnecting with capabilities our species set aside long ago." Their conversation was interrupted by a chime from Riley's communication device. "Cooper here," she answered. "Riley, it's Thala." The Centauri engineer's voice came through clearly. "The Titan requests your presence in the core chamber. We're ready to test the quantum synchronization sequence." "On my way," Riley replied before turning back to Admiral Morgan. "Duty calls. Would you like to join us? The core chamber is quite spectacular." The Admiral smiled. "Wouldn't miss it." As they made their way through the massive station, Riley reflected on how much had changed. The Centauri, once reluctant to let a human touch their precious technology, now worked alongside humans as equals. Species that had been bitter rivals for centuries collaborated on construction teams, united by the common threat of the Void. The core chamber was a vast spherical space at the center of Station Omega, dominated by a miniature star held in perfect suspension, a quantum replica created by the Guardians to serve as the power source for the primary node. Around this artificial star, 12 control platforms extended like spokes of a wheel, each staffed by engineers from different species. The Titan stood on the central platform, its massive form dwarfing the organic beings around it. "Riley," it acknowledged as she and Admiral Morgan arrived. "We are prepared to initiate the synchronization sequence for Node 12. Riley stepped onto the platform, feeling the familiar resonance between her enhanced consciousness and the Guardian technology. All monitoring systems are online. Quantum stability at 98%, within acceptable parameters. "Excellent," the Titan approved. "Chief Engineer Thala, is your team ready?" The Centauri engineer, now the head of the multi-species technical division, nodded confidently. "All systems green, Guardian. We await your command." "Then let us proceed." The Titan turned to Riley. "Would you do the honors, Riley Cooper? It seems appropriate, given how this all began." Riley smiled at the reference to that fateful day aboard the Dominion. "You want me to touch something important again? Are you sure that's wise?" "In this case, yes," the Titan assured her, a hint of humor in its mental voice. "The activation panel is ready." With Admiral Morgan and the assembled engineers watching, Riley approached the quantum interface panel. Unlike the first time she had interfaced with Guardian technology, she now understood exactly what she was doing, the neural traces in her mind allowing her to perceive the complex quantum processes at work. She placed her hand on the panel, feeling the familiar connection establish instantly. Through this link, she could sense the entire barrier network, 11 primary nodes already humming with energy, thousands of secondary nodes waiting to be activated, and countless engineers and technicians across the galaxy preparing for the final phase of construction. Initiating quantum synchronization, Riley announced, her consciousness expanding through the network. Primary node 12 coming online now. A pulse of energy rippled outward from Station Omega, traveling along the quantum barrier. On view screens throughout the station, representatives from across the galaxy watched as the 12th segment of the barrier flared to life, completing the primary defensive perimeter. Applause and cheers erupted from the engineering teams. Even Admiral Morgan, usually stoic, broke into a wide smile. "Magnificent," she whispered. The Titan's voice resonated through the chamber, addressing all present. "This is but the first step. The secondary network must still be completed and the barrier tested against simulated void conditions. But today marks a significant milestone in our collective defense." As the celebration continued around her, Riley remained connected to the network, her enhanced perception allowing her to appreciate the true scope of what they had accomplished. The barrier was more than just a defense. It was a testament to cooperation across species, cultures, and even time itself, linking the ancient Guardians with the modern galaxy they had returned to protect. "What are you thinking?" Admiral Morgan asked, noticing Riley's contemplative expression as she finally disconnected from the interface. Riley smiled. "I'm thinking about how it all started. With an Emperor screaming, 'Don't touch that,' and a human mechanic who didn't listen." Morgan chuckled. "Sometimes not following orders leads to the best outcomes. In this case, it just might save the galaxy," Riley agreed. As she looked around at the diverse beings working together in harmony, Centauri engineers collaborating with Saurian technicians, humans and crystalline Proxians analyzing data side by side, Riley felt a profound sense of satisfaction. The void still approached, but the galaxy would face it united, with technology both ancient and new, guided by the Guardians and the species they had returned to protect. And it had all begun with a human's simple touch. 1 year later, Riley stood on the command deck of the Guardian vessel Sentinel, watching through the main viewport as the void finally reached the edge of the Milky Way. From this distance, it appeared as a perfect absence, not darkness, but nothingness, a region where stars and space itself simply ceased to exist. "Barrier integrity at 100%, reported Commander Ethan Cole, who had been assigned as the Sentinel's captain. All primary and secondary nodes responding normally. The void has made contact with Sector 7 of the barrier," Thala added from her station, her 4 eyes fixed on the sensor readings. "Quantum fluctuations within expected parameters." Riley nodded, her enhanced consciousness simultaneously monitoring hundreds of data streams from across the barrier network. "The containment protocols are holding. The void is being redirected along the barrier's curvature, just as the Guardians predicted." On the lower deck, Emperor Zoltan and High Chancellor Mira watched the proceedings with tense anticipation. They represented the Galactic Union in this historic moment, the first contact between the completed quantum barrier and the cosmic threat it had been built to repel. The Titan stood beside Riley, its massive form motionless as it focused its vast awareness on the barrier. "The void tests the quantum matrix," it communicated. "It seeks weaknesses, patterns, ways to corrupt the structured reality we have established." "Will it find any?" Riley asked quietly. "Not if we maintain the network properly," the Titan assured her. "The barrier is designed to be self-healing and adaptive. It learns from each interaction with the void, strengthening itself where needed." As they watched, the point of contact between the void and the barrier glowed with intense energy, reality itself resisting the encroachment of nothingness. For several tense hours, The crew of the Sentinel and observers across the galaxy monitored the confrontation, ready to implement emergency protocols if necessary. But the barrier held firm. The void, finding no way through the quantum shield, began to flow along its contours, exactly as the Guardians had intended. Rather than penetrating into the galaxy, it would be channeled around it, eventually continuing its journey into the intergalactic void beyond. "It's working," Riley breathed, relief washing over her as the data confirmed their success. 6 months later, the crisis had officially passed. The void had been successfully redirected around the Milky Way, continuing its inexorable journey into the depths of intergalactic space. The barrier remained in place, a permanent shield protecting all life in the galaxy. On Earth, Riley stood before the newly constructed Guardian Memorial in Geneva, a massive monument depicting the 12 Guardians and the united species of the Galactic Union. She ran her fingers over the inscription at its base. From a single touch, salvation came. "Quite poetic, isn't it?" Emperor Zoltan said, approaching with Admiral Morgan and the Titan, who had taken a more human-scaled form for the occasion. Riley smiled. "A bit dramatic, but I suppose accurate. The neural enhancements have stabilized in the human population," the Titan reported. "Approximately 1 in 10,000 humans now shows the capacity for Guardian interface. Enough to maintain the barrier for generations to come." "And the Guardians?" Riley asked. "What will you do now that the immediate threat has passed?" "We will remain as protectors," the Titan replied, "but also as teachers. The knowledge we carry belongs to your ancestors. It is time for humans to reclaim their legacy." Admiral Morgan nodded approvingly. "The Galactic Union has officially recognized Earth as a founding civilization. We've come a long way from being the newcomers who couldn't be trusted with advanced technology." "Speaking of which," Emperor Zoltan added, his filaments rippling with amusement, "the Centauri Science Academy is offering you their highest position, Riley. They seem to have gotten over their reluctance to let humans touch their precious technology." Riley laughed. "I think I'll decline. I'm needed here on Earth to help train the next generation of human engineers who'll work with Guardian tech." As the sun set over the memorial, casting long shadows across the gathered representatives from across the galaxy, Riley reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From a simple mechanic sent to fix a ship, to the human who had awakened the Guardians and helped save the galaxy. All because she hadn't listened when an alien emperor screamed, "Don't touch that." "Any regrets?" the Titan asked, sensing her thoughts. Riley shook her head. "Not a single one. The barrier would stand for millennia. Humanity would continue to reclaim its ancient knowledge, and the species of the galaxy would remain united in peace. The threat had been vanquished, the heroes had prevailed, and the future stretched before them, bright with possibility." "Sometimes," Riley mused, "the most important moments in history come down to someone touching exactly what they shouldn't." And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also, leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.